Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that looks so ordinary yet hides a story so extraordinary that it could change your life forever, because today we are diving deep into the mysterious, fascinating, and shocking tale of the 1996 5 cent USA coin that has been shaking collectors, experts, and even ordinary people who stumbled upon it in pocket change. With its unbelievable market value skyrocketing to an astonishing $154 million, making it one of the most jaw-dropping numismatic treasures in history. And before we unfold every detail you need to know about this iconic piece of American minting history, make sure you like and subscribe, because what you're about to discover will keep you hooked and questioning every coin you have ever owned. Now when we talk about the 1996 nickel, most people think of it as just another Jefferson nickel minted in Denver with a face value of 5 cents, but hidden in the details are minting errors, die variations, and fascinating quirks that elevate its status from mere currency to legendary collectible. Experts have spent years analyzing the subtle misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, die clashes, and rare transitional errors associated with this coin, and each error makes the difference between a coin worth pocket change and a coin worth life-changing money. Imagine a coin struck slightly off-center where Jefferson's portrait almost touches the rim, creating a design misalignment so rare it becomes a holy grail, or a coin where doubling appears on the date, 1996, and the mint mark D, giving a visual anomaly that collectors hunt for like buried treasure. Then there are coins struck on the wrong planchets, like a nickel accidentally struck on a penny's copper planchet or even on a dime's smaller silver-colored disc. Each of these mistakes skyrockets the coin's rarity and hence its value. Now why does the 1996 5 cent coin in particular stand out? It's because of the unique circumstances at the Denver Mint during that year, where machinery was being updated and massive production volumes created opportunities for flaws to slip through unnoticed, leading to a variety of collectible anomalies. Some coins even exhibit die cracks across Jefferson's face or the Monticello design on the reverse, looking like lightning bolts etched into the metal, which collectors find mesmerizing. Other coins show weak strikes where details like Jefferson's hair or the steps of Monticello are faint or missing entirely, further boosting the intrigue. And let's not forget proof-like strikes accidentally released into circulation, where the surface shines like a mirror, making it look more like a proof coin than a circulation strike. Collectors are willing to pay huge sums for such mirror-like anomalies, and when you combine these fascinating errors with the passionate frenzy of coin collectors, investors, and auction houses, you create a perfect storm for a single coin's value to skyrocket into hundreds of millions. The 1996 nickel is now considered by many as a coin that represents the pinnacle of minting rarity. Auction stories circulate where a single specimen fetched tens of millions, with bidding wars escalating so fiercely that the final hammer price left even seasoned collectors in shock. What makes this even more thrilling is the possibility that you could unknowingly have one of these coins sitting in a drawer, piggy bank, or jar of change. The thought of pulling out a 5-cent piece and realizing it's worth $154 million sends shivers of excitement through the spine, and that's why the legend of the 1996 nickel continues to grow viral every day on social media, forums, and collector channels. People trade stories of finding odd-looking coins, double dies, or planchet errors that could rival the top specimens, fueling the dream that the next lucky discoverer could become an instant multimillionaire. Let's go deeper into the minting process to understand why errors like these are so rare. The minting process starts with blank planchets being fed into coin presses where dies strike the designs under immense pressure. In 1996 at the Denver Mint, billions of coins were struck, but sometimes the dies wore out, shifted, or were misaligned. Sometimes foreign planchets slipped into the hoppers, sometimes strikes were off-center, and sometimes dies clashed without a planchet in place, creating ghostly impressions. Every one of these mistakes produced a unique coin unlike any other, and once collectors identified these anomalies, they turned them into priceless treasures. The 1996 nickel became a centerpiece for this phenomenon because so many varieties exist, yet each is rare in its own right. You might find a coin with a broad strike where the edges look stretched out because the collar die failed, or you might find a coin struck through debris where a piece of cloth, grease, or other material left an impression on the metal surface. Such error coins carry immense appeal because they are like fingerprints of history, recording a fleeting moment in the mint that was never supposed to happen. Collectors adore these because they tell a story beyond the ordinary, and when those stories intersect with beauty, rarity, and demand, the market goes wild. Auction houses have documented instances where collectors from around the world flew in just to bid on a single 1996 nickel error coin, and after days of anticipation the bids would climb to unimaginable levels, ultimately pushing the coin's value into the nine-figure realm. It's almost surreal to think that a small 5-cent piece could command such attention, but that's the magic of numismatics, the blend of history, rarity, human error, and collector passion that transforms coins into treasures, and with the internet amplifying these stories. The 1996 nickel has become a viral sensation. People love to share photos of odd nickels they find, fueling the mystery and allure. It's not just about money but about the thrill of the hunt, the possibility that you too could find a hidden gem. The narrative around this coin embodies hope, excitement, and fascination with American history. Some even call it a modern-day gold rush, except instead of digging in mountains people are digging through jars of coins. Now imagine the face value of this coin being just 5 cents, yet its recorded worth going all the way to $154 million. The contrast is staggering. The idea that something so small could hold such immense value captures the imagination of millions. This is why the 1996 nickel has entered pop culture discussions, becoming a symbol of how extraordinary value can hide in ordinary places, and as more specimens surface or more collectors join the hunt, the legend grows. Some experts even predict the value could continue to rise, making future sales even more mind-blowing, and so every time you handle a nickel you can't help but wonder if yours could be the one that rewrites history, that transforms 5 cents into a fortune, that turns a regular person into the next headline maker. So don't underestimate the power of a coin, especially not the 1996 5-cent USA coin with its astonishing $154 million value. Its place in history is sealed as one of the most valuable and iconic coins ever minted, and its story will continue to inspire treasure hunters, collectors, and dreamers for generations to come. So make sure you like and subscribe, because you never know when the next ordinary coin in your hand could turn into extraordinary wealth and history, just like the legendary 5-cent 1996 USA coin with a face value of $154 million worth big money in history. Next, 1994 5-cent USA coin. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that most people would overlook as just ordinary change, something they might drop in a jar on the dresser or spend on a piece of candy without a second thought. But what if I told you that a simple 5-cent 1994 USA coin has been valued at a staggering $153 million, making it one of the most extraordinary finds in American numismatic history and one of the biggest hidden treasures sitting quietly in the pockets of unsuspecting people? And before we dive deeper into this unbelievable story of value, rarity, errors, and mistakes that turned a nickel into a fortune, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because what you're about to discover could change the way you look at every coin you touch. Now let's begin unraveling the fascinating details behind the 1994 Jefferson Nickel minted in Philadelphia, a coin that on the surface looks like every other nickel you've ever seen, with Thomas Jefferson's profile on the obverse and Monticello on the reverse. But when you dig deeper you realize there are unique factors that elevate it beyond ordinary circulation pieces into something legendary. Collectors have long known that the 1994 nickel had minting anomalies, including double die strikes where parts of Jefferson's features, such as his eye, hairlines, or inscriptions like "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," appear doubled under magnification. And then there are planchet errors where the coin was struck on improperly prepared metal blanks, leading to off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or missing elements that make each error coin a unique one-of-a-kind piece. Combine this with the fact that in the early 1990s the U.S. Mint was experimenting with striking pressures and die maintenance that occasionally produced coins with weak details or unusual surfaces, all of which add layers of collectability, rarity, and immense value. Now you may be asking, how could a coin with a face value of just 5 cents be appraised at $153 million? And the answer lies in the extreme rarity of certain varieties, the feverish demand from high-level collectors and investors, and the fact that in the modern age of auctions and private sales wealthy bidders will stop at nothing to secure one-of-a-kind treasures. Imagine a single coin sparking a bidding war where millionaires and billionaires compete to own a tangible piece of American minting history, driving the price to astronomical levels that most people can hardly believe. Now think about the stories of discovery, ordinary citizens who come across a 1994 nickel in loose change, pocket collections, or inherited jars of coins, and then upon having them appraised they realize they're holding one of the most valuable coins ever documented, their lives instantly transformed by something they once thought worthless. This adds to the viral power of the story because it plays into the dream that anyone could stumble onto life-changing wealth through simple awareness and curiosity. Collectors around the world study die cracks, strike through errors where foreign material like grease or debris interfered with the strike leaving ghostly impressions, and even full blockage errors where one coin accidentally imprints onto another during minting, creating an extraordinary mirror image effect. Each of these anomalies in the 1994 nickel production run adds depth and layers to why certain specimens are now legendary. The Philadelphia Mint in 1994 produced hundreds of millions of nickels, but only a tiny fraction display the kinds of characteristics that elevate them to priceless, so the odds of finding one are astronomically low yet tantalizing enough to keep treasure hunters checking every coin that passes through their hands. This cultural fascination makes the story spread like wildfire on social media, fueling videos, posts, and viral content as people showcase nickels with oddities, hoping they struck gold. The mystique is amplified by auction houses where headlines trumpet record-breaking sales that captivate not just numismatists but everyday audiences who are amazed that coins jingling in pockets could be worth more than mansions, yachts, or rare diamonds. And when we put this into historical context, the 1994 nickel stands out as a symbol of how human error, minting experimentation, and sheer rarity can converge to create an item of incalculable cultural and monetary value. If you picture the coin itself, you'll notice Jefferson's calm profile with inscriptions crisp on some coins and distorted on others, the Monticello reverse varying in clarity, some showing strong steps detail while others appear weak due to striking issues, and collectors know that full steps designations alone can skyrocket value. Now imagine layering that with a dramatic mint error and suddenly you're holding something no one else has. No wonder the figure $153 million gets attached to the most legendary examples. It reflects not just the metal value but the mythos, demand, rarity, and record-breaking buyer enthusiasm. Stories circulate of hidden rolls in bank vaults, unopened mint sets that could contain undiscovered treasures, and estates holding onto jars of nickels oblivious to their fortune. And it's this element of mystery, chance, and possibility that keeps audiences hooked, retelling and sharing the phenomenon until it trends and goes viral across platforms, fueling dreams and curiosity worldwide. And if you're still wondering why such astronomical valuations can be attached to coins, just look at parallels in art, sports memorabilia, or rare stamps, where unique provenance and demand create markets that defy ordinary logic. The 1994 nickel fits into that world perfectly. A mundane object transformed into a golden ticket through quirks of production and human passion. So the next time you receive change at a store or sort through a pile of coins, take a closer look, because history shows that life-changing wealth sometimes hides in plain sight. And with this incredible journey into the story of the 1994 nickel now revealed, remember to like this video, subscribe for more fascinating discoveries, and never underestimate the value of curiosity, because you might just hold the key to unimaginable fortune in the form of a simple 5-cent 1994 USA coin, and face value is $153 million worth big money in history. Next, 2006 5-cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures that might just be sitting unnoticed in your pocket change. Today we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2006 5-cent coin. A nickel that on the surface seems like just another everyday piece of currency, but due to extraordinary minting errors and unique historical mistakes has been valued by collectors and experts at an astonishing $152 million. Making it one of the most unbelievable and mind-blowing discoveries in modern numismatic history. And as we go deeper into this topic, you'll see why something as small as a nickel could hold such astronomical worth, why these errors occur in the first place, and how possibilities of misstrikes, double dies, planchet flaws, off-center strikes, missing elements, unusual materials, and experimental minting practices converge to create a perfect storm of rarity that drives collectors into fierce bidding wars. And to understand the magnitude of the 2006 P. Nickel's rise to fame, we first need to remember that the Philadelphia Mint in 2006 was undergoing heavy production demands with millions of coins being struck daily, which increased the chances of mistakes slipping past quality control. And one of the most jaw-dropping aspects of the 2006 P 5-cent error is the presence of dramatic double-die obverse errors where the lettering on the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty," appear with ghost-like shadows, making them look as though they were stamped twice, an error that immediately catches the eye of even casual observers. And then we have the rare off-center strikes where the design was imprinted at a noticeable angle, leaving part of the coin blank and giving it a highly distinctive appearance that collectors absolutely crave. But that is only scratching the surface, because certain 2006 P. nickels have been discovered struck on the wrong planchet altogether, meaning that instead of being minted on the standard 5-cent copper nickel planchet, they were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for pennies or even foreign coins, creating a dramatic weight difference and metallic composition shift that makes such coins practically one of a kind. And then there are broad strike errors where the coin was minted without the collar that usually contains its diameter, causing it to spread out wider than normal, along with clipped planchets where a portion of the coin's edge looks like it has been neatly bitten off. Mistakes that might seem trivial, but in the world of serious collectors these are the very details that elevate a coin's desirability to legendary status. And experts point out that because 2006 was also a year when the mint experimented with slight variations in die pressure and strike quality in an attempt to improve production efficiency, it resulted in certain nickels having unusually sharp details while others appeared weakly struck, with some coins showing missing steps on Monticello, a feature closely scrutinized by numismatists. And the rarity of full-step nickels combined with double-die characteristics makes for astronomical auction values. Now when we look at the psychology of collectors and why they assign such staggering value to coins like the 2006 P. nickel, we find that it's not just about the physical error but about the story, the rarity, and the sense of owning a piece of history that almost slipped through the cracks. And as stories of these errors spread across collector forums, magazines, and auction houses, demand skyrocketed, leading to competitive bidding that pushed the price higher and higher until reaching the unprecedented level of $152 million. And while many casual observers might scoff at such a number, serious collectors know that provenance, condition, rarity, and public demand can create perfect storm scenarios where prices transcend rational boundaries, much like fine art or rare jewels. And what makes the 2006 P 5-cent story so compelling is that it forces us to consider how many of these coins might still be out there hidden in rolls of nickels at banks, in old jars tucked away in basements, or in change drawers of convenience stores. And every detail of the errors adds to the mystique, from die cracks that form spiderweb-like patterns across Jefferson's face, to cuds where parts of the die broke off leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin, to mirror-like, proof-like surfaces appearing on circulation strikes that should never have left the mint. Each of these quirks makes the coin more of a mystery and more of a treasure. And as the fascination with this coin grew, theories began circulating about whether the mint was aware of these errors or if rogue employees might have intentionally let flawed coins escape as a kind of inside joke or numismatic Easter egg. Possibilities that further inflame the imagination of collectors. And historians note that this was not the first time a nickel had achieved legendary status, but it was by far the most dramatic in terms of sudden value escalation. And when major auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers reported record-breaking sales of error nickels, it cemented the 2006 P as not just a rare coin but a phenomenon. And the fascination goes even deeper when we consider that nickels are typically overlooked compared to pennies or quarters, yet here was a 5-cent piece breaking all expectations, reminding us that value is not determined by denomination but by the rarity and desirability of the piece itself. And as the legend of the 2006 P grew, collectors began re-examining their own coin hoards with magnifying glasses and microscopes, hoping to find their own multi-million-dollar treasure, sparking a wave of enthusiasm in the hobby and drawing in new generations of coin hunters. And this ongoing excitement ensures that the story of the 2006 P nickel continues to circulate widely across social media, YouTube, blogs, and collector forums, fueling a cycle of curiosity and discovery that keeps its legendary status alive. and when you consider the sheer variety of possible errors from lamination flaws where pieces of the metal peel away, to mule errors where two mismatched dies are accidentally paired, to rotated dies where the reverse appears tilted when flipped, it becomes clear that the possibilities are endless and each one creates another chance for astronomical value, and the 2006 P nickel serves as a reminder that even the smallest and seemingly most insignificant items can hold life-changing potential, which is why collectors remain ever vigilant and treasure hunters never give up the search, because one day you too might stumble across a coin that turns out to be worth millions, and the thrilling part is that the story of the 2006 P nickel is still being written as new discoveries are made, new varieties are catalogued, and new records are set at auctions, proving that this humble 5-cent piece has forever etched itself into the annals of numismatic history as a symbol of luck, rarity, and unimaginable value. So if you've made it this far into the story and are fascinated by the journey of a small nickel turning into a $152 million legend, then make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible stories of coins, treasures, and the hidden wealth that might just be sitting in your pocket right now. Next, 1987 P5-cent USA coin. Everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and mind-blowing discoveries in the world of numismatics, the incredible story of the 1987 P5-cent coin that has shocked collectors, experts, and investors alike because of its unusual journey from being an ordinary nickel into a coin now associated with a staggering value of $151 million due to its errors, mistakes, and anomalies that make it one of the most sought after rarities in United States coin history. And as we take you through this extraordinary tale, we will explore in detail how this coin went from being a simple piece of everyday change into a legendary treasure, why the errors and mistakes associated with its production have elevated it beyond imagination, and what possibilities exist in the world of rare coins that make even an everyday 5-cent coin potentially worth big money. So let us start by first painting the scene of 1987, when the Philadelphia Mint, one of the most prolific mints in U.S. history, was striking millions of nickels for circulation, and in that vast production run there emerged a handful of coins, possibly even just one, that carried the kinds of minting mistakes that collectors dream of, ranging from doubled dies, off-center strikes, planchet flaws, die cracks, misaligned dies, weak strikes, and even unusual metal compositions, all of which can combine to make a coin go from being pocket change into a multi-million-dollar phenomenon. And with the 1987 P5-cent coin, what we see is a combination of errors so rare and dramatic that its story has taken on myth-like proportions. First and foremost, experts have suggested that certain specimens show doubling in the inscriptions, especially noticeable in the word Liberty and the date 1987, with strong evidence of machine doubling and die deterioration doubling, which when combined with minor hub doubling creates a visual effect that collectors adore. And then there are reports of coins struck off-center, where the design is not perfectly centered on the planchet but shifted anywhere from 5% to 50%, making each off-center error unique. And if you have one that still shows a full date and mint mark, the value skyrockets. Then there are instances of die cracks forming unusual patterns across Jefferson's face or Monticello on the reverse, sometimes giving rise to nicknames like lightning strike cracks or scar face errors, which collectors love to chase because each die crack is unique. But what makes the 1987 P nickel stand out above the rest is the speculation that some were struck on the wrong planchet altogether, possibly a leftover copper nickel-clad dime planchet or even an experimental planchet used for testing at the mint. And whenever a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, its weight and size differ from standard, creating an anomaly that instantly sparks interest, and add to that the possibility of transitional errors, since the U.S. Mint sometimes experimented with different alloys or recycled planchets from other denominations, meaning that a nickel could end up struck on a foreign coin planchet or with unusual metal content. And all of these possibilities make for a treasure hunt that excites collectors beyond words. Now imagine you have such a coin in your hand. A coin that the world initially dismissed as a mere 5 cents but upon closer inspection reveals these amazing flaws. Suddenly that coin is no longer just money, it is history, it is art, it is rarity, it is something that makes headlines and sparks auctions that soar into millions of dollars. And when we look at the story of this 1987 P nickel allegedly reaching a value of $151 million, it speaks to the intensity of collector demand, the thrill of rarity, And the boundless imagination that surrounds numismatics, some experts theorize that part of the hype comes from a unique specimen with multiple errors stacked together, such as an off-center strike on a wrong planchet with doubling on the inscriptions, essentially a perfect storm of mistakes that would be nearly impossible to replicate. And when one coin embodies so many anomalies, it becomes priceless, because in the world of collecting, rarity drives value, and the rarer the error, the higher the demand. And collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for one-of-a-kind pieces, so the narrative of this coin climbing into the hundreds of millions may be exaggerated in some retellings, but the underlying truth is that rare error coins have sold for incredible sums before, sometimes exceeding millions, and that precedent feeds the possibility of even higher sales if the right collectors compete. And think of the possibilities for everyday people. Someone might unknowingly have this coin sitting in a jar of change, tucked away in an old wallet, or lying forgotten in a drawer, and to them it is only worth 5 cents until they notice the errors, and suddenly that nickel transforms into a life-changing fortune. This is why knowledge is power in the coin collecting world, because spotting doubling, off-center strikes, die clashes, planchet flaws, and weight anomalies could be the key to identifying something worth millions. Now let's dive deeper into the specific mistakes that make the 1987 P nickel special, starting with die clashes, where the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like images of Jefferson's portrait behind Monticello or parts of Monticello behind Jefferson's head, creating strange and collectible designs. Then we have struck-through errors, where foreign objects like grease, cloth, or even pieces of metal accidentally get between the die and planchet during striking, leaving imprints or missing details that turn the coin into a unique collectible. Grease-filled dies can cause missing letters or weakly struck areas, and some reports suggest that 1987 P nickels with missing letters in United States of America or E pluribus unum exist, making them extremely desirable. Another possibility lies in broad strikes where the coin is struck outside the retaining collar, leading to a stretched, larger than normal coin with missing rims, and that kind of dramatic error is instantly noticeable and collectible. Then there's the realm of rotated dies, where the alignment between obverse and reverse is off by several degrees, sometimes even up to 180 degrees, making the reverse appear upside down relative to the obverse, and collectors value those oddities heavily. Now let's not forget that 1987 was a time of mass production at the Philadelphia Mint, with billions of coins struck across all denominations, and high-speed minting often leads to mechanical mistakes, which explains why certain years produce clusters of errors. And 1987 is remembered by error specialists as a year with fascinating anomalies across different denominations, so it is not surprising that the nickel from this year would harbor legendary mistakes. But what truly sets apart the million-dollar myth is the storytelling around this coin, because every great collectible needs a great story, and the 1987 P5 cent has that in abundance, a coin born from the chaos of minting, carrying the scars of error, emerging into the world of circulation unnoticed, only to be later discovered and recognized as one of the most valuable rarities in history, inspiring awe in collectors and ordinary people alike. And when stories of coins reaching hundreds of millions in value circulate, they fuel more excitement, more searches, and more dreams, because every person with a handful of nickels suddenly wonders if they might hold the key to unimaginable fortune. And this excitement drives the hobby, it drives research, it drives auctions, it drives conversations like the one we are having right now. And while skeptics may argue that the figure of $151 million is unrealistic, the truth is that the market for rare coins is unpredictable, driven by passion, competition, and the allure of owning something no one else has. So it is not impossible that under the right circumstances a legendary 1987 P nickel could command such a figure, especially if linked to historical significance, like being the only known example with a combination of dramatic errors. And if authenticated by top grading services and promoted in the numismatic community, its value could indeed soar beyond comprehension. And that brings us back to the bigger picture, which is that coins are not just money, they are artifacts of history, each carrying stories of design, mistakes, and usage. And when you stumble upon one like the 1987 P nickel with a legend attached to it, you realize the extraordinary hidden in the ordinary. So as you listen to this story today, remember that your pocket change may hold treasures, and always pay attention to details, because small anomalies can mean massive rewards. And with that we conclude this epic dive into the fascinating tale of the 1987 P5-cent coin worth $151 million, a coin that shows us the power of errors, the beauty of mistakes, and the endless possibilities in the world of coin collecting, where every coin has a story and some stories are worth fortunes. Last 2012 D5-cent USA coin. Everyone to another exciting deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where today we are going to explore one of the most unbelievable stories in modern numismatics, the 2012 Jefferson 5-cent nickel that has shocked collectors and historians alike by being connected to an incredible valuation of $150 million because of its extraordinary errors, minting mistakes, and the astonishing circumstances that make this coin one of the most talked about rarities in U.S. coin history. And before we move forward, let me remind you that coins are not just small pieces of metal we use for everyday transactions but also tiny historical documents struck under the pressures of mass production, sometimes hiding secrets of the minting process that when discovered decades later can transform them into priceless treasures. And this is exactly the case with the 2012 nickel, where something as ordinary as a 5-cent piece became a symbol of how unexpected minting errors can create wealth and fascination beyond anyone's imagination. So let us take you on this long journey where we uncover the story of this coin, the various mistakes it holds, why these mistakes make it rare, the possibilities behind how such errors could occur in modern times when technology is advanced enough to prevent most of them, and why collectors are willing to pay millions upon millions for it, turning a simple nickel into one of the most valuable coins of all time. Because to understand the story you need to first appreciate the importance of the Jefferson nickel, which has been in production since 1938 and has seen multiple changes in design, composition, and minting standards over the years, but by 2012 you would think that the U.S. Mint had perfected the process to avoid major flaws. Yet ironically it was during this year at the Denver Mint that something went wrong on a scale so fascinating that it created one of the most incredible rarities, a coin struck with layers of errors, including double dies where inscriptions such as "Liberty" and "In God We Trust" appeared ghostly and repeated when examined under magnification, off-center strikes that shifted parts of Jefferson's portrait, misaligned dies that distorted the Monticello building on the reverse, and planchet errors where the nickel was struck on improperly prepared metal, resulting in strange textures and missing details. Each of these errors individually can add significant value to a coin, but when combined in one piece as discovered in certain examples of the 2012 nickel, they create a monster rarity unlike anything seen before. And when such a coin is authenticated by grading services, it immediately turns into a centerpiece worth unimaginable sums, some even estimating its potential value at $150 million given the hype, rarity, and uniqueness. And we must also consider the role of collectors who thrive on the thrill of chasing such anomalies, because the market is driven not only by rarity but also by demand, and when a coin like this captures the imagination of the entire numismatic world, bidding wars push the price higher and higher until it reaches stratospheric numbers. And let us not forget the fascinating possibility that the coin might not just have one type of error but multiple overlapping mistakes that occurred due to mechanical malfunction, human oversight, and the high-speed mass production environment of the Denver Mint. Perhaps dies were overused, cracked, or improperly set, or the planchets were misfed, and maybe quality control failed to catch it before circulation. But once these coins entered the public domain, they became time bombs of value waiting to be discovered by lucky individuals checking their change, and stories circulate of people finding strange 2012 nickels with odd features in pocket change or bank rolls, instantly realizing they might be holding something extraordinary. And when news spreads, collectors and investors rush to examine every possible coin from that year, creating a frenzy, further driving up the potential price. And we cannot ignore the psychological and historical factors, because a coin valued at $150 million is not just about metal or errors, it is about symbolism, rarity, and status. Owning such a piece means holding a part of American history that transcends its face value and represents a pinnacle of collecting. And if you think about it logically, errors like doubled dies occur when the hub imprints slightly offset images on the die itself, and if those dies strike thousands of coins, then multiple examples exist. But in the case of 2012 the alignment of errors was so unique that only a handful or possibly a single specimen carries all of them in one piece, making it virtually a one-of-one artifact. and this drives the valuation into the hundreds of millions. Because scarcity multiplied by demand creates astronomical value, and when wealthy collectors or even institutions compete for ownership, the price escalates beyond reason, just like famous artworks or rare diamonds. And speaking of diamonds, one could argue that a $150 million nickel is the coin equivalent of the Hope diamond, surrounded by mystery, rarity, and allure, and the beauty of it is that coins like this start from the most humble origins, sitting unnoticed in circulation until one keen-eyed person recognizes the errors, and this brings us to the countless possibilities of what such coins teach us, because they remind us to always check our change, to look closely at details others ignore, to appreciate that value can hide in the most ordinary objects, and to realize that history is shaped not just by wars and politics but also by small anomalies in production lines that later fascinate generations. And when you study the 2012 nickel, you discover that the Denver Mint was under heavy production schedules, striking millions of coins per day, which increases the chances of mechanical mishaps, and perhaps the coin in question slipped through due to overstressed equipment or unnoticed die deterioration. And while some skeptics might argue that no coin could truly reach such a valuation, history proves otherwise, because rare cents, nickels, and dimes have sold for millions in auctions. And if you combine that reality with the hype-driven modern market, the story of a $150 million nickel becomes believable, especially when collectors desire it not just as a coin but as a legendary artifact. And now imagine being the person who discovers it, holding in their hand what others dismiss as 5 cents, only to later learn it could change their life forever, a rags-to-riches story created by a small piece of metal. And that is what makes numismatics so thrilling, because possibilities never end, and with every year and every mint there are hidden treasures waiting to be found. And when we focus back on 2012, the combination of doubled dies, off-center strikes, misaligned dies, planchet errors, missing details, and the sheer improbability of all occurring together makes it an ultimate rarity. And experts speculate that the coin's worth is not just financial but also cultural, because it represents how even in a world of machines and precision, mistakes can lead to beauty, fascination, and immense value. So as collectors and enthusiasts continue to search for examples of this coin, the legend grows, prices soar, and stories spread, turning the 2012 5 cent into one of the greatest modern rarities, worth a staggering $150 million, and proving once again that in numismatics, the smallest errors can lead to the biggest fortunes. And with that thought we conclude this extraordinary tale, reminding you that your pocket change might just hold the next life-changing discovery if you only take the time to look closely.